can't believe it. I've got the Schist Disk all to myself. The place is closing, and here I am all alone with the most important relic in this museum. I cannot believe my good fortune. I just cannot believe it. I get to look underneath. I get to look everywhere without anybody being here. And honestly, if you don't see anything else in this museum, you have to see this item. It's been pieced together pretty badly after it was found, but this is the most amazing relic.
Since there's so much interest in the Schist Disk episode that I made, I thought we'd have a look at what other people think about this amazing artefact and what experiments I could find that have been done on it. So here we go. Let's start with Joe Rogan and Graham Hancock and their take on this Schist Disk, or the Disk of Sabu.
The Sabu Disk, an ancient Egyptian artifact from the First Dynasty, 3000 to 2800 BC, found in 1936 in North, how do you say that? Saqqara?
Saqqara. It's got a series of 3 flanges that come across. It's like a wheel, but it's nobody knows what it is, and it's cut out of incredibly hard rock, or cut or shaped in some way. I've never seen a satisfactory explanation for this thing. And when I first saw that in the Cairo Museum, I thought, how on earth did they do this? Why isn't this a big mystery? Why isn't this being seen as a mystery? Because
that looks like a piece of an engine.
It does,
doesn't it? It was used in
5,000 years old.
3,000 BC. They think it was used in brewing beer as a mash rake to mix and even out the mixture of grains and hot water in a big mash turn.
It's a lot of work to make beer. Yeah. You could do it in other ways.
That looks like some kind of a fan to me.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like something that would be on a belt.
Yeah.
You know, like on some sort of
something's driving
or
it.
something.
Yeah.
It looks like a fan. It looks like those things underneath it. It looks like that's how you would funnel water or air through.
Yeah. It clearly had a function. Nobody would go to the trouble of creating something as complex and difficult to make as this unless there was a useful function for it.
What is it made out of?
Schist, which is a hard stone.
That's crazy that that's made out of stone.
Yeah.
Now let's see what Johanna James of Funny Old World has to say about this amazing artefact.
They held an experiment where they projected different sound frequencies at the Schist Disk. So they would fire sound waves at the Schist Disk while it rotated, and they discovered it made almost like an infinity symbol of like energy. I was like, no way.
So from my perspective, this next experiment done by Mimic M is the one that shows precisely how it works and what it does. So it looks like they've created a 3D printed version of the Schist Disk, and they have put it in the bottom of a blender. The best descriptions of this artifact comes from a channel that's called Ancient Egyptian Architecture, and I'm going to play a few clips from one of their episodes, and I strongly suggest you go and check out the full episode because it really does provide an excellent description.
Artifact known as the Schist Disk from the 3000 BCE First Dynasty tomb of Prince Sabu. This curiously shaped 24-inch diameter artifact has been the subject of much debate. Metamorphic schist is formed as a composite of many fine planar layers, and creating an object with this profile from it would run a very high risk of layer separation and splintering of the material. An extraordinarily sharp carving point would be required, of great rigidity, wielded with extreme care. The 3 lobes, with a semi-elliptical shape, rise from the base of the vessel and gracefully curve back inwards toward the center. They are about 1/5 of an inch in thickness at their apex, an astounding feat considering the extreme brittleness of the material. The delicate hoop that connects the lobes has a cylindrical cross-section of approximately 3/8 of an inch in diameter. The disc is a little over 4 inches high, and the central hollow post has a 3-inch inside diameter.
There you are. There's lots more out there, lots more people who are testing things, but I thought that that was the best collection of things to give you a general introduction to why this is such a fascinating object. Now let's look at my opinion on this artifact and the episode I did a couple of years ago about a dream I had about it. So I'll just attach that at the end.
It is clearly, to me, a replica of something else, but wow, I think, I did a whole episode on this particular artifact, and because I had a very detailed dream about it, and I really wanted to get back to have another look to see how close my dream was to the actual relic, and it is exactly the same, but there were 2 of them in my dream, and they were being used as... No, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you what they're going to be used for.
Keep watching, and I will attach the old video that I made a while ago on the dream that I had, and it will explain everything as to what I think this object actually is. I was part of a group of ancients delivering gifts to people living in Kium. So that's pre-dynastic Egypt, I'm thinking. We wanted something from the area they occupied, but I don't know what, but it was important. So we turned up with gifts of things that we thought they would like. We only ever gave them items that could do them no harm. So it tended to be useful things like stone vessels, ointments for infected injuries, or sandals, cloth, etc. So one of these items that we are giving them looks just like the Schist Disk. There were 2 of these discs in the dream. I pour a thin layer of a liquid from one of the stone jars into this beautiful disc. The liquid was just sort of a gooey, opaque substance, whitish, and it actually burnt quite white, maybe slightly blue, whitish blue. It seemed to light up like a normal flame. So I lit it, and I showed them that it wasn't hot, so I got them to put their hands near the light one by one, and they were really pleased, quite excited about it, and laughed. So then I hoisted the lamp upwards, and re-secured the rope properly, and it shed a beautiful, subtle light over the area. I explained to them that it was delicate and it must be treated with care, and we provided enough of this special liquid to last them a long time, maybe 10 years or so. They agreed to our request for what it was that we wanted, but I can't remember what it was that we wanted. It was something important, something from our technology that we didn't want them to have, but I do remember they found it interesting enough to keep, even though they didn't understand what it was. So we had to replace it with something just as interesting to them, well, if not more so. And that is why these items look like technology, because they are a replica of some technology that the dynastic Egyptians found interesting. And so they wanted these interesting things. They wanted these things that were of the gods, of the ancients. And so you couldn't just give them something ordinary. And anyway, that was my dream, and that's my opinion as well. I think that it is essentially a replica of some very old technology. And in itself, it's very old anyway. It's 5,000 years old. So we've got a very old thing that, in my opinion, is a replica of something even older.